Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Journeys of Hope. Today, we have one of our presenters who will be with us on the Spring 2020 cruise, Vanessa Poster. Vanessa, you do work with teaching people to use writing as a tool for their grief. You have lost your husband, and that led you kind of down that path.
Yep.
But talk to us a little bit about how writing, what role does writing play in your life?
My husband died in November 2015, and I had done poetry and writing, creative writing for many, many years. And I found when I was happy, when I was married and things were great, I wasn't writing. And then after he died, I realized that it was something that might help me deal with what I was feeling. And I started taking a class and I started writing, and it did. It really helped. And I spent that first year after he died just dealing with it and letting myself feel sad and unmotivated. And I didn't really do all that much that year. And then, except I did go to this writing class and it really helped. And I started reading my poetry and people started saying, wow, this stuff could really help other people going through what you've been through. And then about a year and a half after he died, I actually went on a cruise. And I thought, I'm going to go to the cruise director and tell him I can teach a class on writing. And it was the first class I ever taught was on a cruise. And so I feel like I'm very prepared to be part of this conference because that's how I started. And when I think about writing as a tool to help with grief, my class is called The Right Way. Using writing as a tool to heal grief. And what I tell my students is there is no right way. First of all, we all grieve so differently and the process and the experience is so different for every person. So there is no right way, but writing can be a way. And we also don't heal. It's a process. And we learn to integrate grief into our lives and learn how to live with it and live, but we don't fully ever heal. It's not, there's always a scar. There's always something that we carry with us. And you can talk to people, you can go to therapy, you can avoid your grief, you can wallow in your grief, you can do all sorts of different things. And writing simply uses a different part of the brain to process those feelings. And the way I do it, we're building community at the same time. So you're sharing your writing with other people and sharing their experiences. And that is another way of building on that process of healing and dealing with those feelings around grief.
Let me ask you a question. I write some, and
Okay.
when I write, I find that it's, for myself, it is difficult to get started. Once I get started, it kind of gets going. So how do you do that on a cruise where things are going to, a lot of things are going to be going on and time's going on? How did it work for the people who are doing writing in that environment? Because that to me is a little intimidating to think about writing in that environment.
A lot of people do journaling. So they already do some writing, or they've written in the past. I've had people in my classes who are professional writers, but when we're talking about grief and we're talking about feelings, it's different. What I do in my classes is I give a prompt. I give you something to think about. And I give you a couple of ways to think about it before you even start writing. So, for instance, in my last class, and I don't know what I'll do on the cruise yet, it's a long way away. And so something else might occur to me, but usually I come up with some concept or idea. And the last class that I had just a couple weeks ago, we talked about surrender and resistance, and surrendering to the feelings and resisting feelings, and different meanings of surrender and different meanings of resistance. And then I set up little dyads where people can talk to another person of what does this concept make you think? How is this your story or not your story? And you talk about it. So you verbally talk about it. And then I do a short meditation. So you are external with the talking to somebody else, and then you're internal in a meditation, and then silence, write. And I very consciously work with that classroom and the group of people. I walk around, I support people. If they get stuck, I help them. And oftentimes what I find is as I hold that space for people and I give them a couple of ideas to start with, people start writing and they don't stop writing for the whole time that I give them to write. And I watch people very carefully and make sure that they're doing okay. And we always have a lot of boxes of Kleenex around, because as you write, things might come up. And I watch and I make sure everybody's doing okay. And I give them that support. I give them that space to be who they are, to be real, to process together and individually. And there's magic that happens when everybody is silent and writing, but writing as a group. So you're internal again, and you're also external. You're sharing that energy of everybody is doing something. And it creates a magic. It really does. It's an incredible experience as a teacher, as a student. I hear from my students all the time how I just have students who come to my class. It's once a month, and they come every single class. And it may be the only time they write during the month, but they keep coming back because it's such a good feeling.
So when I listen to you talk, it sounds like that the writing is important, and writing is a major part of the process, but it really sounds almost like it's a therapeutic process that you're kind of
It is.
people through with.
Yeah.
And how did you come to that, to a recognition that doing the writing, would help you or help others? How did you come to that recognition?
When I started my grief process before he died, I called a local support group place. It's called The Gathering Place, and it's a place where people, they have support groups around grief. I called them up and I said, I know I'm going to need this. How do I get in a group? And she said, we don't let people in our group until they've actually been in grief for about 4 months. You're not ready to be in our group until you've been 4 months through this. So I have your name. I'll call you. So it was November, December, January, February. I'll call you in February. And I was like, what? You're going to leave me alone for 4 months? Writing was something I could do on my own. So I started the writing right away. And it's that sharing in the group that makes a difference. And it's using a different part of your brain that makes a difference. And when I give that support to my students, I'm not a therapist. I'm sure we're going to have therapists who are part of the cruise, and their workshops are going to be very different. And it's not support group. It's very different because it focuses on this other thing, this art, this pen, this paper, this words. So I can take your grief and help you process it, and then address the writing and let the feelings be the feelings. And it provides a different venue. It provides a different place to process those feelings. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's.
Yeah, it sounds very cathartic. It sounds
Yes.
like that it takes away some of the pressure of writing. When I write,
Yes.
I feel there's a lot more pressure. And it sounds like what you're really trying to do is help people understand that there's a part of your brain that can be accessed through the written word,
Yes.
as opposed to through the verbal word. And by doing so, allowing them to maybe get in touch with a little bit of more who they are now that they're bereaved.
Exactly. Yeah. Go ahead.
I said we touched a little bit on, but we really haven't talked much about. Tell us a little bit about your husband and your story. About how did you become bereaved?
And it's also one of the reasons why I wanted to write, was this man that I married, and it was a second marriage for me, a second marriage for both of us. So we came at it as adults. We came at it having learned a lot about love and relationships and what we wanted in a relationship. And we even together taught relationship classes. We worked with women and helping women to find love, to find the kind of relationship that we had. And we had ways of communicating that were really special. And he was just a really amazing human being. And I had him for 8 years. It was the time that we were together. And my mother died in 2014. His father died in 2013. I'm going backwards, so starting forward. 2012, I had cancer. His father died 2013. 2014, my mother died. And then 2015, he had a diagnosis of throat cancer. And the kind of cancer that he had was HPV related, not because he had ever smoked. And he had a 90% chance of survival. So he went into the process of treatment thinking he would live. And he was going to go through the horrible, horrible treatment because he knew he would live. And it was worth it to live because he wanted to live and he wanted to share a life with me. And he went through the whole summer, all the treatment. It was horrible. And after the treatment finished, they said, oh, it'd be about a month. You'll still feel bad, but then you'll start feeling better. And he didn't. And he still felt the tumor. He still felt the pain. And he said, it's still there. It's not gone. And we demanded that they do another biopsy, and it was still there. So at that point, we had, for him, when he first said, I love you, the 4 months of first dating, for him, that meant that we were now responsible for making sure that we each died in the way we wanted to die. So that was a conversation we had from the beginning of our love. So I knew his measurement of whether or not he would want to continue to live if he couldn't make the decision for himself was, if I can't wipe my own ass, I want to die. For me, it was, if I can't write, if I can't express myself in some way, then I want to die. And we had that conversation. And so I knew once that treatment plan came back that, okay, now, since the cancer's here, we're going to have to remove your voice box. We're going to have to remove your tongue. You will never be able to eat again. You will never be able to speak again. And he was already in chronic pain from back issues that he had. And I knew, because we talked about it, that he would not want to live in that kind of pain, in that kind of situation. And we made an active decision for him to go into hospice. So in terms of having the best dying experience possible, he had 6 weeks to say goodbye to people, to get rid of his things. And he faced death with a grace and a beauty that was remarkable. And I wanted to write because I wanted to be able to tell people who this man was, what an amazing man he was, and what an amazing love we had. And I wanted to share that with people. And then my other reason for writing is I want people who aren't in grief to appreciate and know what they have when they have it. Because if I hadn't known how great it was when I had it, and then to lose it would be a double loss. And I knew it was great when I had it. And that made the loss easier. It's hard to say, grief has so many different levels of complication, but I think one of those complications is when we don't get to say what we want to say to somebody, when we don't get to resolve those issues. And we never had those issues because we always resolved them. And we had the chance to say goodbye. We had the chance to do those things. And it was beautiful and special. And I wanted to be able to share that with other people.
Your love for him is still so very strong. And
it is. And that's something about grief that I think so many people haven't had these experiences, don't understand that I am now in a relationship with another amazing, wonderful man that everybody on their cruise will get to meet because he's going to come with me. And he lost his wife. And he still loves her. I still love Morgan. And we now love each other. And it's about learning how to live with this pain that I will always have because I loved Morgan so much. If I hadn't loved him, I wouldn't be in pain.
That's so very true. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you to start working on the writing classes before the cruise.
Oh, yes. Wow. Lovely.
How would they do that?
I actually teach a class over the phone. So people could participate in that. My email is on the website. So people can email me and let me know if they're interested. And even if you're not coming on the cruise, or if you want to get ready for the cruise and have already the process inside you of how we do this writing. I teach a class that's twice a month on the phone. And it's a class, it's a group class. It's not formulated the same way as the live class, but we share the writing, we support each other, And then I can have a chance to teach people my process and teach people how it is that I get you writing even when you don't feel like writing, and starting to share that writing with other people, reading your stuff so that other people can hear it. And that can become another way of healing, is learning how to open up and be vulnerable in that way to share your work. So I would love it if people emailed me before the cruise, could get in on one of my phone classes. It's a conference call. And then I also do private one-on-one coaching. So I work with people one-on-one over the phone anywhere in the world. And we use a Google Doc so we can look at your writing together, and I can make suggestions in writing. We can talk about it and really get you to a place where you feel good about what you've written and you want to share it with other people, or just that you feel good about what you've written because it expresses something that means so much to you. So, yeah, I'd love that.
Thank you, Vanessa, for sharing. I am truly excited about getting to know you and
Yeah.
having a better opportunity to work with you. And I'm sure that all of the people that come join us on the cruise will also have a great time getting to know you and really expressing their feelings through writing through their grief. So.
Yes, I think it's a perfect environment. When I first heard about the cruise last year, it was too late to become a presenter. And I was like, oh no, this sounds so fantastic. And I've already taught on cruises. So I felt like I had the seaworthy experience. And I sent you all my stuff and I'm like, oh, it's too late. I can't get in. And then I was so excited to be able to be part of the 2020 cruise. So yes, looking forward to it.
Thank you very much for your time. We really
Sure.
appreciate it.
Thank you.